What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Duel, back here with another Diablo 4 video, and this might be the last one for a while until Season 9 comes out, but I'm basically wanting to go over the campfire chat, but I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Usually what I would do is make a video discussing all the changes that they made, but I thought about it more and I'm like, well, why would anybody watch this? I call myself a casual blaster. I'm like a in between a casual player and a guy that can blast the game. You know, I usually play a lot of the S tier or the A tier builds and put a lot of hours in this game, usually make one or two characters. So I have a pretty good idea of how the game works from a different perspective. I'm not a streamer and I have a full-time job. So I can understand, I can kind of just relate to the more casual person who isn't a giga blaster at this game. But I blast enough that I know, enough. I have enough deep knowledge that I can give some sort of feedback into the game, experience it for hundreds of hours. So I figured instead of going over all the changes myself and making a list when you could just go watch somebody like Rax here, what we're going to do is we're going to go through on 2x speed, listen to what Rax has to say, and then we're going to react to it and give our thoughts and opinions. So without further ado, we're going to just jump right into it here. Let's just bump the playback speed to 1.5. That should be good. Not 2. Let's do 1.5.
Season 9 Campfire. I'm just gonna go through what they said. I've got two full
We could probably get away with it going to 175 here, so let's just do that.
pages of notes, and I'll give you my opinion on it. Let's just get started. So about Season 8, they said they're happy with the leveling speed, activity variety while leveling is boring, and this kind of ties into what they were saying later about how people, when they release a seasonal activity, if you don't do the seasonal activity, you don't progress the season, so it kind of forces you into doing that, which I agree with. And there was like a little bit of an argument last season about what was going to be the fastest way to level, and people said, "Oh, it's definitely doing the seasonal activity." And I said, "If you guys think that is boring, I don't even think that."
So I am a little confused by this messaging. So basically, they're saying doing the seasonal objective is too boring, but that's so you're saying, hey, don't do the season, guys. Go do everything else in the game, but everything else in the game is boring. So because we've already not had it at its core is boring, we've just done it a million times. So what is the messaging here? I don't understand. Um, it says, he put in his notes here, wants the activities to feel punchier. I don't really understand what this means unless you're going to be adding some new things. But overall, as a whole, the events in the overworld don't really change much. In fact, I've last 2 seasons I found myself skipping them because they are not punchy enough, and maybe that's what they mean here: is that the overworld events suck and they need to be brought up with a season event, so that if you get bored of doing the same seasonal thing, fighting Belial over and over and over again, you have something else to do. So maybe that's what they mean, but yeah, I think maybe that's the issue, is that everything else in the game is kind of just, as far as like overworld events, are boring and they don't really give you that much. It's much more juicier just to do the seasonal events and leveling through the, like Rax said here, the Festival of Hatred campaign.
That's the fastest way to level. I think it's just doing the normal campaign. And I did the normal campaign, and everybody else who played solo who did the actual seasonal activity, I think I absolutely cooked them. I think, as far as I know, I was the first person to 60 just doing the normal campaign, which is even more boring. Doing the most boring thing on the lowest difficulty is still the fastest way. So I guess they're happy with like the 3 to 4 hour time period, because anybody can do the normal campaign as fast as anybody else. You don't have to craft, you don't have to get any legendary powers, it takes no skill at all. But I do agree that forcing you to do the seasonal theme in order to buff the seasonal theme while leveling is also not the answer. They said endgame variety is too directed toward lair bosses. That's true. It's been a problem since forever. They want activities to feel punchier. So I actually just played the Slaughtermancer, which is a new...
Let's see if we can skip through some of this here because we just talked about it. Okay, so he goes over to talks about class balance.
And actually understanding what they were even saying. They said class balance is overall pretty good. Lightning Spear is too good. Spiritborn's too weak. Overpower is dominating. The best builds are mostly the same best builds from Season 7.
Yeah, so I made a video talking about my overall thoughts on Season 8, and definitely I'm glad this is getting addressed and Woody Joe actually makes a better video talking about overpower and how all the overpower builds are just running each season so far. And definitely, I would say their assessment here, and when I say they, I mean the Diablo 4 staff, their assessment of class balance is pretty on point here. I'm actually really surprised that they knew what the metas were and they're addressing them here. So I don't know if they've done that in the past previously. I could be wrong. Like, they've addressed it in like mid-season with patches, but as far as I know, they've never addressed I could be wrong, but they've never actually addressed the metas live on stream before. Could be wrong on that, but I like that they're addressing it here. It means they're hyper aware of what's going on in their game, and I think that's really really good. Um, so yeah, this is definitely a big change, and we'll keep going here.
And they said that one of their goals is that all builds should be able to do all content. If I can quote them correctly, I think they also said on tier 4.
So that's an interesting statement too. He said that they want other builds to be able to reach T4, not just certain ones. And I thought, and Rax is going to bring something up here where he said that that's a mixed messaging as well, because they said, oh, we only want certain, you can only, T4 should be aspirational, which by saying that, you're automatically saying only the top tier builds are going to be able to get to that. So now you're saying you want to bring all the other builds that are not doing so hot and bring them up to T4. So instead of it adhering to the Giga Blasters who are going to get to T4, like myself, you're now saying, oh, okay, keep people that are playing more casually, we want to bring those builds up. So the messaging is a little confusing here, what they want. So let's go ahead and skim through here. Nightmare Dungeons feel kind of stale. Definitely agree. This is definitely, I think I brought this up in my last video talking about the overall season. Nightmare Dungeons definitely feel stale. They need a revamp. This is the season of Nightmare Dungeons. We'll get to that later at the end of the video. Yeah, let's see what you got to say.
And then they don't bring any of it back, so the game doesn't really evolve. But then when they bring something back, they don't necessarily bring back the part that's actually fun. Thing that I can remember the most is when they brought back the vampire powers or whatever, and like the ones that they chose to bring back, they didn't even bring back my favorite one. I think it was called Chemo. They didn't bring back Chemo, my favorite one. And the thing that worked so well about the vampire season was the progression of the powers. And they didn't bring back the progression system. They only brought back some of the powers, and then they just gave them to you. The whole time on the PTR or on this campfire, they're talking about.
Yeah, that is true. They actually, I'm pretty sure they gave them in the form of like uniques or like ring powers or something along those lines. They just gave it to you through jewelry. You didn't earn the powers. You just got, and you only got some of them, and it wasn't even the best ones. I do remember that.
About depth. Depth is not just handing it to me. Why didn't you bring back the progression system? Like not to draw like comparisons here, but Path of Exile, when they introduce a whole new mechanic and then they take it down for a few seasons, then they re-implement it. They don't just give you the rewards. They don't just hand them to you. They also usually have some form of the progression system with it, which gives you something to gnaw on. Now, PoE 1 didn't do a perfect job of it. They would tell you the same. Grinding Gear games tell you the same thing because there was too much bloat in the game. They're trying to dial that back. That's fine. But yes, this is good to make permanent additions or permanent changes within the seasons. But I hope they consider the entire picture of what they're adding and don't just give us things from the season in the next season. That doesn't add depth, which is what they kept talking about. Project spells are create your own power. I wasn't really understanding.
I mean, I think that's a good point, right? The biggest comparison I can draw here is from Last Epoch, where they added, if you've played Last Epoch, they added what's called, for their season 2, they added it's called the Weaver Tree. Basically, it's this giant tree that you fill out, and it's another faction. Basically, it's a giant bar that you fill up by killing Weaver monsters, and it just adds to the overall season theme. So I think that's what Rax is talking about here. There's no, like, overall system. As far as like the powers, they had their own progression system, and then by just putting those powers that you liked from a previous season and just putting them on jewelry or something and just giving them to you, takes the progression away. So you're obviously not progressing towards something. So can totally
understanding how it was, but it is create your own power. The catalyst is the main power that you get. Admittedly, the powers actually look pretty cool. Everybody's sick of powers. Powers that they showed in the video actually look pretty good.
Yeah, I like the powers. I mean, obviously, this is going to be, the third season in a row where it's just been powers. And again, powers are fun. They're great. But, I think the thing that I think a lot of people, like myself included, have an issue with is that none of these powers remain permanent. Imagine if they took every single season that has had powers and they just smashed them all into the game. And then you have all these different abilities that you can mix and match. Oh, I can go to Season 2 and grab Blood powers, or I can go to Season 8 and grab Boss powers, or I can go to Season 7 and grab Witch powers. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that they could do here. And I think watching the campfire, because I saw the campfire myself, right? One of the devs was like, nothing is dead and we can bring back anything that we want to. Why don't you bring stuff back from other seasons then? I think that'd be really cool. And like Rax said, don't just give it to us. Actually give us a progression system.
You get to choose the element type, and it matches the highest damage type that you already have. That's cool. And then there's different arcana that fill in the holes of your build. It can give you unstoppable or make the area size of the catalyst much bigger. It looked pretty cool. It'll be fine. It's powers again. It's the same idea over and over and over, a little bit different. Hard to get super excited for it, but it did actually look kind of decent. It'll be fun for a little bit, I'm pretty sure. And the fact that you bind it to your specific skill does add something there. So it's definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen. Nightmare Affix updates, they added a little bit different positive things to it with a rarity system. This is probably better. I don't think this is, like, it's literally the Nightmare Dungeon season. I don't think this is anything people are...
I think this is something that's really good. It's kind of, again, I'm going to draw a comparison from last Epoch here. If you played last Epoch, they have, like, you know, the monolith. If you don't know what it is, the monolith system, it's basically a mapping system where each area that you go to has, like, positives and negatives. This is kind of what they're adding but to their Nightmare Dungeons. And it's not a mapping system, though. Their sigils are just keys, and they have different affixes, and it looks like, you know, the more rare, the better it's going to be. So obviously you want to get the most rare ones. Definitely an improvement in the right direction. Talk right here, it says mini dungeons within dungeons. I think that's a good idea. Something about being able to chain dungeons over and over, like I think up to 3 times, and then you find the hidden entrance. How hidden is that thing going to be? Is it just like going to show up, or is it actually you have to go and find it? I guess that'll remain to be seen. And it looks like that little entrance is like something similar to the gauntlet, maximize attunement, get more rewards. Something that Rax is going to bring up, he's going to say something like, oh, well, you took the gauntlet out of the game. A lot of people didn't like the gauntlet, so you got rid of it, and now you're taking that and putting it into the dungeon. I'm not going to be overly negative about that. I understand they want to take something that they thought would be a good idea and then revamp it and put it into the dungeons. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to be as bad as what Rax is going to be alluding to here in his video, but, you know, it's something. It's an attempt, right? It's an attempt at something. Series of Nightmare Dungeons, we already talked about that. New affixes, we already talked about that. New mechanics for, oh, they added Astaroth to the game, and he's not in the boss ladder, and they even, like, showed a demo for Astaroth. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Occult gems from season 7, synergy with catalysts. I don't want to go too far. Here we go. We'll just go here.
Okay, it's fine. Paradric Jewels, they're occult gems from season 7, and they have synergy with catalysts. Okay.
What does that sound like to you? Because to me, I'm not trying to be negative. It sounds like runes. It sounds like rune words. Synergy with catalysts, occult gems from season 7. Cool to see something they brought back from season 7, as we were just talking about earlier. I'd have to look more in depth at the gems to actually have an opinion on this, but it's just going to be something that I slap in my slot and call it a day and move on. Yeah, let's see here. Bonus damage reduced by 80% for the overpower nerfs. That's good. Just because overpower is just out of control right now. Additive damage rebalance. We already knew that. Basic skill buffs. I'll have to see what this looks like. But for me, like playing, it's playing the basic skills is usually not where my bread and butter lies. It's usually running my ultimate skills. So I don't know. Like maybe for leveling, this would be a good change, especially if you're running a druid, which desperately needs some love here. And then I guess some items had too many resistances, and now they can go up to 75%. I don't really think that's gonna change how I play the game that much. So let's keep going here. We talked about this earlier, where he said all builds should be able to do all content. So we're not gonna talk about that again. Let's keep going here. Oh, he must have scrolled up. Let's see here. Keep going. Oh, here we go. We get into class balance. Did I miss a spot here? Yeah, key passives. Infinite scalars will cover around 70%. Okay, let's talk about the class balance here, because this is like some of the juicier things, and I think what most people are looking forward to. They're going to nerf Earthquake, Legendary Paragon Simplified. That's fine. Basic skills and now Cleave unique. That's fine. Cataclysm got nerfed. Grizzly Rage. I'd have to go back. I don't really remember what they had to say about Grizzly Rage. They added a unique that's like every 10 seconds you splash poison puddles, which is cool. And then Rax brings up a good point. He said it's only every 10 seconds, which is a long time. And if it was like maybe every 2 to 3 seconds, maybe that's something that you could use as a meta. And who knows, they might adjust that during the PTR and realize it's not as quickly as they were wanting it. But right now, that's what it is. Soul Rift, they removed the barrier. I don't know why they did that. Maybe it was just too broken, and that's fine. Blood Wave got nerfed, thank God, because I'm so sick of Necro Blood Wave being... I mean, I'll be honest, that was one of my favorite builds in the entire game. I'm going to miss it, but I played it too 2 to 3 seasons in a row, and I guess you could say, well, don't play that build, but it was like one of the top tier builds for the last few seasons. And I just really enjoyed it, and I figured I might as well play it one more time before it goes away, and I'm glad I did because it's going away. Skeletal Archmages. Now, this is the unique that they gave the Necro. Very excited for this one. I'm very curious to see what the theory crafters come up with. I'm hoping that whatever comes out of this then ends up being an S tier because it looks like a lot of fun. Basically, the Skeletal Archmages spawn instead of the Skellies and the Golems, and those guys will teleport away. It's just a different way of playing the minion build, I think, and I really like that. It really just changes it. And then with Rogue, they nerfed Death Trap, Infiltrators and Bursting Venoms, Eagle Horn buff. Yeah, and I did see the unique that they gave for the Rogue, and it looks like you basically can strike enemies at the speed of Goku. So if you want to go and do that, go ahead. Or you look like Wolverine, I guess. That's what Rex said. I thought it was more like you'd look like Goku, but that's my opinion. Stork, this is the other unique that looked really fun. Let's talk about this real quick. They nerfed Lightning Spear, and then they said they rebalanced Burning, changed Enlightenment, and then they said with adding huge hydras with 3 heads, and you gain a really big damage. I will say when they previewed it, in my opinion, the huge heads are not that huge. They're like I'm thinking like massive, right? They're not that big, in my opinion. Maybe when I get in the game and I see it for myself, could be fun. So I think the Hydras and the Skeletal Archmages, those are probably the best uniques that they've added so far. Let's go down here to the Spiritborn, and they said they had Deflection and Razorwing buffs, Hunter resets nerf, that's fine, and then Poison and Thorns unique. I'll be honest, it just looks completely boring to me, just more damage for the Poison and Thorns, and I don't care. It just doesn't stand out to me. All the things they could be doing with the Spiritborn, and this is what they choose to do, it just seems very flat and boring. So let's get into the system changes that Rax mentioned here. Elites and bosses that give seasonal reputation. I think this is massive, because if you're doing all kinds of different content in the game, like you're doing Infernal Hordes is going to be juiced this season because you're just blasting bosses and elites the entire run you're playing Infernal Hordes. So I think that's huge. You're going to be juicing out that reputational board. Unless they buff it significantly, they're going to be juicing that board out immensely quickly. Laird Horrors are granting seasonal currency. You can now point to another Nightmare Dungeon from within another Nightmare Dungeon, which I think is a huge W. They said, and this is a big change here, right here, increasing the quality of items per tier. They said that you had a chance to get GA items T1, T2, T3, T4. Well, I guess now as you go up T2 to T3 to T4, you get a chance to get more GA items, which I don't know why that wasn't. I thought that was already a thing, but I guess it wasn't. So now I mean, this is a good change. I'm not being negative. I'm confused because I thought this was already the way that it was. But I guess the higher you go, the more chances you get to get. So I'm sorry, maybe I misconstrued it. So basically, the way that it worked before is Torment 1 through 4, you had a chance to get a GA, and the further you went, the higher chance of you getting a GA was higher. Well, now it looks like, yeah, now I'm understanding. Now it looks like T1 through T4, instead of you now having a higher chance to get a GA, now you're getting better GAs on top of a higher chance to get a GA. So I think that's good. That means you're going to see a lot of people running around with 3x GA, maybe 4x GA if you're in T4 just running around blasting like I'm going to be. Everywhere, including in lair bosses, I think that's good. Let's see here. He scrolled back up a little bit. Oh, they said they buffed legendary runes because apparently I talked about that in my video. Legendary rune drop rates were complete dog shit, and I just didn't have the patience to go and craft a mythic myself because it just involved you praying to Diablo himself that you're gonna get a legendary rune, and it just wasn't happening. Tribute of Harmony runes, they said that they wanted to make the Tribute of Harmony feel really impactful, and like when you finish it, you're gonna get like a burst of items and stuff. So I think that's huge. All Undercity tributes drop a rune. His wording here in his notes, I think he means legendary rune. If that's the case, that's huge. Huge W. Whisper cache resources increased. Also a huge W. Jewelry cash cost reduced, this was a huge issue for me in season 8. I was such a broke bitch when it came to gems and amulet caches. And they reduced this significantly. I think when I was playing, to open up an amulet cache, it was like 150k, 150,000 gem fragments, and now they've dropped it down to 40k. So massive change, and they even said on top of that, they're increasing gems from Infernal Hordes. I think it was either season 6 or season 7, I don't remember, but gem fragments were like juiced, and you were like maxed out, and you didn't have anything to do with these gem fragments, and the response to that was creating these caches. Well, now they've created these caches, but now they made them so insanely expensive that it was like hard to get, and one of your seasonal questline objectives was to unlock the higher tier amulet and gem caches. Well, now it looks like it's going to be a lot easier to do this season. So let's see, is there anything else to talk about? I think that's really it. So I'm just going to give my final thoughts talking about the season. Season 9 and what's coming for PTR. I'm not going to play the PTR. There's just other games I want to play right now that I have time for. But overall, my opinion on this, I think the season is going to be pretty juiced. I think it's going to be closer in line with season 7. And they're definitely probably going to tweak things down again for season 10. That's just early prediction. I think that I think the season theme here kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie. Like, yes, we're getting powers. They mentioned that, I don't even think he did talk about spell powers here. I must have just missed it. Here we go. Heraldic spells. Create your own power, bind Clados to your skills, choose an element, and then Arcana, fill in the holes of your build. Overall, I think the season of spells is pretty cool, like creating your own power. I think that's pretty awesome. So I'm excited to see how that turns out, because I think what I saw in the video they showed in the campfire chat actually looked pretty cool. But overall, I think that making the season, again, they're doing this thing. And this is a consistent thing that Blizzard's been doing for the last few seasons, is let's take a core mechanic of the game that we lackluster in, improve it, and then slap a season number behind it. And that's not a season. You're just improving the game. This should be part of you patching quality of life. This is not a seasonal thing. This is not a thing. And the other thing that really sucks is, I know I bitched about the Belial Legion event in one of my previous videos, but there's no overworld event in this season, and I think that's a huge problem. I think that's really bad. So instead this season, you're just going to have people siloing themselves playing in dungeons, which isn't a terrible thing. Like, dungeons definitely needed the vamp that they needed, but now everyone's just going to be off doing dungeons, and I think that's bad. There needs to be, besides Outside, I think them adding the overworld event for the season was a good thing. They just need to make the overworld event better. Just make it better. A good example of this was season 7. That was perfect. They did it great. Season 2 was perfect. Season 6 was not that good, with the giant turtle dog thing that was walking around. That guy that was so slow. I think it was season 6 that they did that. Yeah, and it was just so boring. They just need to make the overworld events more fun. Chasing around Belial in season 8 was not that fun. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. So they needed something, in my opinion. So, yeah, overall, I think this season's going to be a lot easier to clear. I think it's going to go a lot faster, because people are going to get to Torment 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're going to get, not only are they going to get a chance to get GAs, they're going to get higher quality GAs as they go up. So I think you're going to be blasting. I think you're going to be destroying the season and filling out the season journey a lot faster than you did in season 8. And I think that hopefully there's going to be different builds that are S tier this season. So there's going to be a lot more build variety. So overall, I think in comparison to season 8, that this is definitely going to be a much beefier, juicier, more entertaining season for you to blast, get through it a lot quicker. But as far as like the seasonal theme or whatever, I think it's lame. It just doesn't add anything to the game. But yeah, no, I'm gonna blast it. I'm gonna have fun playing it. I always have fun playing it. I love getting the builds online and just destroying it and clearing the content, filling out the battle pass, all that stuff. Yeah, so really looking forward to it. Overall, I am still excited. I'm still having fun playing Diablo 4. This is not a D4 bad video. It's just I really wish Blizzard would get away from implementing a core seasonal function of the game, improving it, and then calling it a season. They really just need to get away from that. They really need to add something that is actually progressional in the end game, that you can actually like work towards and fill another bar to fill, if you will. That's not just a battle pass, and not something that you can just buy with money. That's my overall opinion on things. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the campfire chat, and go check out Rax's video. He's obviously a god at this game, and he's one of my favorite content creators in the space. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. You're not obligated to, but it does help out the channel a lot. And with that, I'm going to end the video there. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!